Hi, and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman. Today we are working on part 4 of my Bees in a Garden. It's my block of the month for 2024. Those of you who are registered for this class would have received your part 4 instructions and templates. So there is a PDF that you would have received as well as a PDF of templates. So that is something that you would have gotten in your email. As you can see on the wall behind me, we created this quilt here, the wall quilt that has the green and white striped border. So that's already finished. I've got that one done. And the other one that we're going to be creating is this one with the appliqué border all the way around it. And I decided, since I already have one wall quilt that's shaped like the square, I decided to make some changes to this one. I wanted it to be skinnier and longer. And let me show you what I did. Here is what it looks like. So as you can see, I simply used this section right here, and I just made one of the flowers instead of making both of them. And I also included the bee and the blue sky. And then I'm going to make a shorter applique section for the top and the bottom, which you saw at the top of that wall quilt. And then for my side sections, I'm using the green, which is the beautiful leaf green that picks that up from the leaves and the stems. I had mentioned last month that I was considering doing some wool applique around here, and I have the wool, I purchased the wool, but you know, this is a summery quilt, and it just didn't work well in my mind. So I think I'll do some wool applique for you this fall and use it for some beautiful fall and wintertime applique or wall art. But for this one, I decided to use the paperback fusible technique, and I'm going to show you that, plus the glue base. So I did do a glue base of the long green stem, and I'll show you all of that here in just a minute. What I just wanted to share with y'all is how you can take any pattern and you can have fun with it and make it your own. Create something a little bit different. I had a student who made this quilt behind me, and she made it as a cover for the patio love seat out on her patio deck. And how fun that is. And she sent me a picture. I'll share that out on my Facebook page so that you can see what she did. But there's so many different ways you can use a quilt. You don't have to just use it as the pattern originally designed it. You can have fun with that and make it into anything that you'd like, or take parts and pieces of a pattern and just have fun creating. So now let's take a look at how I did the applique for this quilt. So for those of you who are registered for the class, make sure when you print out the PDF of the templates that you print them at 100% so that they're the accurate size. And it tells you how many you need to make of each of these pieces. You'll also want to cut out a stripe for the center of your fabric. I used a pink fabric. This is 9.5 inches wide by the width of this particular wall quilt. And of course, you can cut yours depending on the size that you intend. In the instructions, it gives you the dimensions that you'll need if you're making this wall quilt exactly like this one. Mine, I believe this is 27.5 inches is what I cut mine. And so then I also cut a green 1 inch by 27.5 inch piece of fabric. And for that fabric, I simply glue basted it. And what I used is just a simple glue base. This is Acorn Precision Piecing product, and that is what I'm using. It has a nice, really kind of a needle point dispenser there, so that as you're dispensing this, you're just getting tiny little pieces out on your, or dots out on your fabric. And I did that along each edge, and then I placed it down the very center. I put a crease in the center, and I placed this down the center and just patted it down. And then I took it to my machine, and I'm using a green embroidery thread. It's a beautiful shiny rayon thread. And I just did an edge stitch all along that. Now with glue-based, you're going to see some fraying a little bit of the threads, and I don't mind that. I kind of like that organic look. If you don't like that, then you might want to actually put some fusible, paperback fusible behind your stripes as well. I did not. I simply used the glue-based and placed it on there, and then I edge stitched it on my machine to seal that. Now let's talk about how we're going to be creating all of these little templates for our flowers. So find your favorite paper-backed interfacing. Here's some right here. This is Light Steamosine 2, and has paper on both sides. Some paper-backed fusible only has paper on one side. But the wonderful thing about a paper-backed fusible is that you can lay it over your templates, and then you can trace, because you can see through them. And you can trace the number of templates that you need on your paper back. So in this case, for template A, I need 24 of them. So I'm going to trace 24 of these if I was going to make this quilt in its entirety. But since I'm not, I am making a skinnier quilt, I am not going to have to trace that many. So depending on what size quilt you're making, identify how many A's, B's, C's, D's, and E's. These are the leaves. This is the little stem. These are the tiny little buds. These are the yellow circles that are the centers that will go over all of the flowers, these as well as these. And these are the big pink ones. So I traced what I needed, and I traced them in groupings. As you can see here, here are some of the stems, and this is template D. I think I have it upside down for you. I traced them in groupings, and then I pressed it onto the wrong side of the appropriate fabric. Here are my leaves. I traced them in groupings, and then I pressed it to the wrong side. Same thing with the bees. I trace them in groupings and press them to the wrong side. And with batiks, often it's really hard to tell what's wrong or right side. They're pretty much the same. Here I have a couple of A's left, and here is the C template. I've got to make another one of those. So go ahead and trace all of your templates, get them cut out loosely in a grouping, press them to the back of the appropriate fabrics. Make sure you use the dark line as your tracing line, unless you plan to do needle turn applique. If you like to do needle turn applique, then you will definitely want to trace on the dotted line because you need your seam allowance when you're doing a needle turn applique. But I'm teaching a fusible applique today, so we're only going to be worried about the dark lines. And never cut out your templates from your paper. Always save this with your instructions so that you can use it over and over again for other projects. You don't need to cut these out of this piece of paper. Make sure it stays intact. You're simply going to lay your paperback fusible on top of that and then trace as many as you need. I've actually cut out some of my parts and pieces, and these can then be placed on your pink fabric. I need to cut out another section of pink. I haven't done that yet. But you can place them along the line wherever you choose to. And I simply put one leaf on each side of my little stem. You could certainly put 2 or 3, whatever you choose. This is your quilt. Have fun with it. And then here is the bud. So the bud is a heart. And you can just place it on the stem and then add your little yellow center to it. And you can add it as far up or down that heart as you choose. And there's one leaf that I'm going to put on it. So that is how I've created each of the elements that I put on the long green stem. As you're removing the paper from that, I cut everything out on the dark line. If you're having a hard time separating the paper from the fabric here, just put tear a little hole in there along with a pen, and you can just simply grab it once it's cool, and you can very easily then remove that paper. It comes off, and you can feel the stickiness. So wherever you lay that element, it will stay on there. And then if you can get it out by just going over to the edge and using your fingernail, that's the best way to grab it. But if you can't, don't hesitate just using a pen and just scratching a little tear in there, and that will help you to remove that. So remove all of the backings from this. The paper has to be removed, and then they're nice and sticky, and you can place them where you want on your length of fabric, on your green center ribbon there. And then once you're happy with the placement, then you can press it down. Once you press it, it's permanent. And then you can take it to your machine and set up your sewing machine for applique. And I'm using 3 different shades here of embroidery thread. And this is a rayon thread. It's a beautiful shiny thread. I'm using a bright yellow gold for the centers. I'm using a green for all of the green elements. And I'm using this bright pink here to go around the heart and the circle of the flower. And I'm simply doing a straight stitch, an edge stitch. And I'll show you a couple of clippings here where I did a straight stitch along the edge of this strip, and I did a straight stitch around the elements within the flowers. I thought I had gotten a clip of doing the edge stitch on the long green stem across the center. Apparently, I didn't get that video. But anyway, you'll just want to edge stitch along each side of this long green piece, just the same as you did an edge stitch around the leaves and the circles, the stems, and the hearts. So very simple technique. You could certainly do a blanket stitch or any other type of special applique stitch if you want. I just simply did a straight edge stitch on all of it. And one thing I do want to point out, when you're working with fusible applique, there's often that stickiness from the fusible that can build up on your needle as you're appliquing. And what you might want to do is keep some of these lens cleaning wipes handy at your sewing machine so that you can actually use it, pull your project out of the way, and use the lens wipe to clean off your needle. It will remove the gum that may have accumulated on your needle, and that will just help you as you are stitching. Another thing that you might want to remember is if you reheat or repress, just warm up the glue with an iron, that will help you to be able to stitch without gathering the glue on your needle as well. So those are just a couple of tricks that I've learned over the years. Hopefully they'll help you. I would love to see the project that you're making. If you're turning this quilt into something completely different, maybe even a pillow, whatever you're doing, please share those pictures out on my Facebook group page, Quilting with Lori, Scrap Up Your Stash. We would all love to see it. It's great to inspire others to have fun with patterns that they're working on. You can make a bee pillow, a flower pillow, maybe a long pillow using this applique. There's just so much you could do with it. So hope you're enjoying this pattern. I can't wait to see photos of yours. Just wanted to thank you all for stopping by my channel today and seeing what we have going on in my studio. And I hope you'll join me again this weekend to have another great scrappy quilt video that I'll be sharing with you. Until next time, happy quilting.